Hi guys, I'm Laurie Vitale. On this episode of Laurie in the Kitchen, I want to show you how to make something really easy, really simple, but so delicious. It's what I call cheese steak stuffed peppers. I'm sure you've seen similar recipes in this all over the interwebs these days, but this is so good. It's a great option if you are eating lower carbs because this particular stuffing doesn't call for rice or breadcrumbs or anything like that. And this mixture of ingredients is just right. Let me run you through them. There's not very many. You need some diced or sliced whatever cremini mushrooms and some sliced yellow onion. For the steak, here's what I like. This is called Angus beef cheesesteak cut beef, I guess. You find it in the frozen section of your grocery store. Now the reason why I like it is because it's perfect to make cheesesteaks. When you make a cheesesteak, or when you order a cheesesteak, I should say, you know that the beef itself is almost chipped, right? It's like shredded really finely. It doesn't all pull together. That's because they're using this cut. It's really thinly sliced, and I'm going to show you how it works so well. So that's what I'm using. You also need salt, some granulated garlic, oil if you're not using a well-seasoned cast iron skillet, and peppers and cheese. Now for the peppers, because this filling is going to be already cooked, the peppers themselves need a head start. So what I did was I just cut them in half, scooped out the seeds, and placed them in a baking pan. They're in the oven, need about 20 minutes or so, and I'll show you what they look like when they're done. But at this point, we're just going to go ahead and make the filling, which, like I said, it's really easy. Nice hot cast iron skillet. Look how thin the beef is. And you can cook it from frozen. You see that? And then what you do, I'm going to cook half a batch at a time. I don't want to overcrowd my pan. This is going to, it's going to give you a lot of fat that you're going to want to get rid of. So what I do is you cook a little bit at a time, crank the heat up, right? And then you take a spatula, like this one, and you cook it like this. You can see how it falls apart. See that? That's what you want. So I'm going to do this until all of my steak is cooked, and then I'm going to discard the fat, and then we'll move forward. All right, my steak is cooked. Now, look, I want you to see over here. I discarded pretty much all of the fat. I just left less than a tablespoon behind because I'm going to cook my onions and mushrooms in here. So I might as well just keep that instead of having to add any additional oil. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cook the mushrooms and onions until they develop some color. They cook down quite a bit. I want these to caramelize. That's why I'm not adding any salt right now, because salt draws out moisture in mushrooms, and therefore it would just draw out the liquid. They'll braise, not, saute and sear and caramelize the way I want them to. So I'm going to keep my eye on that. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's easy stuff. They look perfect. All right, now your beef goes back in, your steak of choice. I've seen a lot of recipes like this for this recipe, if that makes any sense, that call for like deli roast beef. I don't care for that, but you can do whatever your heart desires. But this is perfect because you can't overcook the steak. That's the best part. A really good pinch of salt, because remember, we haven't seasoned anything yet at this point. A little bit of granulated garlic. I don't like to use fresh garlic here because I feel like it overtakes the flavor of the onions and the steak, which is a cheesesteak. So turning it off at this point. Give it all a really good mix. And now I'm going to show you my last tip that I think is important. What I have here is some shredded cheese. You can use whatever cheese you want. This just happens to be white cheddar because it's what I have already shredded anyway, but any cheese you want will do. Why am I adding cheese here, you say? Well, because if I don't, because like I said earlier, this recipe doesn't have any binder. There's no rice, there's no breadcrumb, there's no egg. If I don't add any glue, it's not gonna hold in the pepper really well. It's kind of just gonna fall apart, and I don't really care for that. I want it all to kind of just stick, in the pepper. So you can see by doing that, it's added just a little bit of what I call edible, delicious glue. This is done. I'm going to set that aside. Let's talk peppers. I had them in the oven, cut side down, for 20 minutes at 425. I'm going to just flip them over like so. They're perfectly cooked by this point. They're about, I would say, 3/4 of the way cooked through. I don't want them to be fully mushy anyway, so this is right on the money for me. And now what I'm going to do is just kind of carefully And with some patience, I'm gonna stuff each pepper with my cheesesteak filling. And then you put a slice of cheese on top of each one. And yes, the cheese is gonna overflow, but you know what? Tell me that's not the best reason, the best thing to overflow. Yeah, pretty much is. You can use any cheese you want. I like American and I like Mott's. Those are my two favorite for a cheesesteak, so that's what I'm gonna use here. I'm using Mott's because that's what I like, and it pulls really nicely. Back into the oven, only for like 5 minutes or so. I'm just looking for the top of the cheese to get golden brown and bubbly, and then I'll show you what they look like when they are done. Do they look good or do they look good? And I am excited to dive right in. I'm gonna take this one right here. Yes. This with a really nice salad on the side. I mean, that is a full, delicious, filling dinner that I can get down with. Yes. Oh, this is gonna be hot. Really hot. So you're gonna have to give me a minute because it is like steaming. That's all right. Come on, get on the fork. Oh, it smells really good. I can smell the onions. It's so hot. Mmm. Ah. Mmm. That's just how I like it. That's how I like my cheesesteaks. Straightforward, lots of meat, always fried onions. And I love my mushrooms. So all together make it for like the perfect stuffed pepper. Like I said, it's filling, it's yummy. And if you're eating low carb, this is a good one to put in your recipe repertoire if you want, if you will, because they're really absolutely delicious. Go to LauraInTheKitchen.com to get the written recipe. Hope you enjoy spending time with me, and I'll see you next time.